Good evening, everyone. This is El Rifado, otherwise known as Christian Diaz, coming to you from San Diego, here with my wonderful co host, Albert Perez. We got a great episode in store for you all. We're going to go ahead and have a special guest, and we're going to talk about one of the grandes of Liga MX, and that, of course, is Club América. And with that, mi sabio, El Sabio Albert Perez, please take it away.
Hey, what's going on? First of all, what's going on, Rifado? Like I said, you're the best host in the Liga MX community. But you know what? I think for this episode, the title is on the line because we have the host of the Eagle Eye podcast, the number one podcast for America Talk in the English MX community. We got Ivan Pineda. How's it going, Ivan?
What is up? What is up, my Savio? What is up, El Rifado? What is up to everybody listening to this wonderful podcast? I'm super excited, super grateful to be on. And man, it's going good. It's been a while since I've been on a podcast, like I mentioned to you guys. We'll get maybe into discussions as to why that is. But yeah, man, super happy to be on here.
Well, let's talk about hey, round of applause first. All right. so tell me about Eagle Eye podcast. When did it start, and what is it about? Obviously, we know what it's about, but let the people that may not know about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. The Eagle Eye podcast became it was honestly just an idea. It was an idea that was brewing in my head, and then my co-host as well. His name is Dylan Jimenez. Shout out to Dylan. It was just an idea that we had in our heads, and one day I was live streaming FIFA. I was playing Club América, just kind of like just randomly, and Dylan joined on the chat. Asked me if I wanted to do a Club América podcast. I said, yeah, of course. We ended up just kind of linking up afterwards on socials, and then just kind of talking about what we kind of wanted to do with this podcast. And then eventually we got a name and called it the Eagle Eye Podcast. Officially cemented itself in 2018, and then we went. Wow, I want to say 7 years consistently talking Club America stuff. We covered the team. Got to cover a whole bunch of different championships. Obviously, we got to cover that Tricampeón era. A lot of ups, definitely a lot of downs as well. And it was a great community that we ended up building. And unfortunately, we did kind of close it last year in November in 2025 after America got eliminated by Monterrey in the quarterfinals.
Was that the reason? Was that the reason?
Yeah, we couldn't handle it. We couldn't handle the heartbreak after going four times consecutively to a final. But no, it's just life was pulling everybody in different directions, and we just felt that it was the right time in the right moment. But never say never, right? Of course, like we're still very good close friends. We talk on the daily, especially when America games are on, and so. Obviously, we miss the community. We miss the people that we used to, discuss and talk America for. But hopefully, maybe somewhere in a broad future, we'll be able to talk Club America again.
So the Eagle Eye podcast, for all its fans, is just dormant at the moment.
It is. It's just dormant at the moment. And then it will remain like that for as long as I can see for at the moment. But like I said, never say never. And like I said, we're always open if life permits. And so we're just going to see what happens.
Ivan, how long have you been an America fan?
Like the saying goes, is de la cuna.
Is de la cuna? All right. What was the first who's the first team what season, what team is the one that you first identify with?
2005 Club América.
Okay.
The
Piojo Lopez.
The Piojo Lopez, the championship winning side, Clever Boas, Cuauhtémoc Blanco as the captain, Guillermo Ochoa in goal.
Bad.
So yeah, some would say one of the best, if not the best, teams in the modern era for Club América. Although this Tricampeón side already has maybe put them to question a little bit here and there. But yeah, that's the first team I fully 100% associate myself with.
Okay, so you've been a fan for Club América for over 20 years is what I'm getting.
Yeah, well over 20 years. It's been passed down from my dad. Obviously, him and his brothers watched it religiously. And growing up, it was always we're going to my uncle's house. I was always around my cousins, and we were always watching the game. We were always, trying to emulate saves, emulate goals, and yeah, that was just kind of my childhood growing up. Was America was always at the forefront.
Okay, Ivan. Before we get into the thick of it, of this state of Club America
Mhm.
conversation, I want to tell people how legit you are. So in December, when the news broke out, the Grupo Ollamani, which owns El Azteca and owns America, sold 49% of its stakes to equity firm called General Atlantic. Everybody thought, and even Record ran with it, that since General Atlantic was in business with the Kraft Group, which the Kraft is who owns the New England Patriots. Everybody was running with the news that the Patriots and Club America were going to be part of the same family. And technically, that wasn't it, as you pointed out in a lengthy tweet you sent out an X, was that the only relationship was that a subsidiary of the Kraft Group called the Kraft Analytics was part of General Atlantic, but all they provided was analytical data for the fan experience. So this news caught on, and you were retweeted by several prominent journalists. One of them being Martin de Palacio, and then that totally dispelled that whole Club America and the Patriots were part of a family thing. So that it just shows how much you are in the know when it comes to Club America.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, shout out to Martin. Shout out to everybody there who's involved in that chaotic what I would say 12 hours of
Yeah,
news
yeah, yeah.
breaking. It was crazy because all I did honestly was I just read, and I didn't make assumptions. I just read and I went to go read what Club America put out. Then I went to go read what Grupo Ollamani put out. And I was just like, where are these people getting this correlation that the
Yeah.
Kraft family is all of a sudden in business or in bed with America, and that we're so called going to be, tied together like that. And so it was just it honestly the only reason why I was kind of I put out that tweet and I was correcting other journalists like Rene, like Leon, who were kind of putting out a little bit of false
Yeah,
information.
yeah, yeah.
Just because I was honestly upset that they were kind of spreading these rumors and getting these fans hopes up that this big money move was in the making, or that we were going to be in line with this NFL franchise and
NFL
all this
money,
stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I was like, this is not it. Like this is false news. Like this is false advertisement. Like people
Yeah, yeah,
cannot
yeah.
be sitting here and actually believing this.
Yeah.
So I just took it upon myself. I even wrote an article.
Yeah, yeah,
And you guys can go check it out. It's
yeah.
one of my pinned tweet, actually. If you guys want to go check it out and you guys read it, I
Check it
laid
out. Okay,
down.
give us your handle.
Yeah, my handle is at Ivan Pineda 83. If you guys want to go check it out, read it. And then I go in detail and kind of try to put everything in perspective so you guys don't have to make any assumptions as to what that deal was between General Atlantic, Club America, the 49% shares that were sold to General Atlantic, all the money that was involved and everything. And so yeah, it was chaotic. I remember it was close to Christmas. It was in December when all of this started breaking out, and yeah, it was just
Yeah.
crazy stuff.
Hey, Ivan, my friend Francisco Magaña, shout out to Francisco from Palm Springs. He's a big Chivas fan, but he's also a big Patriots fan and Tom Brady fan. So I thought, oh my God, that's a conflict of interest. How are you gonna
Yeah.
do it? And he was even oh my God, but thanks to you, that got dispelled quickly. And you know what, Rifaldo, take it away. Let's start the questioning.
Yeah, so I love that that we opened up with something that's really interesting in the history of Club America and Televisa, and that is them selling 49% of Club America's shares, or like the people who manage Club America, 49% of those shares to an American group, Atlantic Group, private equity firm, right? And in 2017, um, Emilio Azcárraga stepped down as the president, right, to like allow these two other guys to come in and diversify their assets a little bit more, maybe liquidate it a little bit so that they were a little bit more able to maneuver in like a changing media environment. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that like they've been trying to like maintain maybe an antiquated form of media for a long time, and they seem to be struggling. And it's a far cry from the days in which El Tigre, Ascarga ruled Televisa and Club América. And I'm wondering if like you as a fan feel that difference. Like, it used to be like if Club America wanted someone, they went out and bought them. Like I don't see like any big estrellas in the squad now. And I'm wondering, is it is it the no money era or is it the smart money era? And so I was wondering if you could help me with that a little bit.
I guess we won't really know the answer until a couple of years from now, right? When we look back at this kind of, past, I want to say 20, 30 year span of Emilio Escarga kind of taking reign of his dad's empire, right? And you kind of touched upon that, he's done things much more different than his dad did. His dad was very ruthless, right? And there's stories, not just with Grupo America, but just in Televisa in general. He was a man to be feared. But he was a businessman at the end of the day, and he kind of had this kind of strong take, but the result yielded. And I think you just have to look at kind of what he did and what his son is doing now with the new approach. Can it be argued that he's being a little bit more modern, that he's kind of going with the times? I guess yes, but again, time will only tell. Club America is still the I guess most winnest. It's not even a verb. It's the team that has the most titles right now in Liga MX, right? So Emilio Escarga has that to his name and can say that under his watch, America has been successful. America has been able to grow. America has been able to kind of overcome the other teams in the league and sit high on the throne. But when it comes to the financial aspect of thing, you have to not even look so back too far back. I mean, you talked about Televisa, and now they're not in bed with America anymore, right? Emilio Escarga kind of separated himself, like you mentioned, from that organization. Although everyone still kind of says Televisa owns Club America, and maybe in one way or another, if you see some paper trails, there might be some correlation. But the whole point of Grupo Ollamani becoming a thing was that Emilio Escarga was going to be able to kind of solely focus on this, on America, and also different business aspects of the sporting world. And Televisa was going to be left to other people, and they were going to be able to grow and do and venture out and seize however they wanted to do with the media in that forefront. But when you look at this business end of Grupo Ollamani selling 49% of its shares, a lot of journalists in Mexico were kind of praising this, saying that this is a big move and that this is a very good thing for not only the team but for the league and the exposure and for bringing on American money into the fold of things. But honestly, I think if you look at it from an America side of things, if you ask me, it's a cry out for help. At least from what I'm seeing from Emilio Escarga, he was in debt with FIFA to make sure that this stadium was renewed and renovated to the standards that FIFA wanted them to be, and the money had to come from somewhere. And I think there was just some poor investment done prior to the remodeling of the Estadio Azteca. I think he was in a pinch. I'm not saying that this was his last ditch effort to get money, but it was one of those things where you think if you would have planned a little bit properly, if you would have done things a little bit differently, maybe you weren't selling 49% of your shares. Maybe you were only selling 30, or maybe you're selling 25, and they were going to be a big major player in that sense. And then you can kind of diversify and, sell different percentages to different other firms or different other parties involved that would be interested in injecting money into the club, into the stadium, into, these other businesses that fall under the umbrella of Grupo Ollamani. But again, we'll see. Time will tell. Time will be the biggest and judge of it all. But at the time being, we're in that limbo stage of like, is this the smart America with their money, or is this America in a pinch and needing to kind of pull resources from different branches?
But
So,
Ivan,
so
the
would
number,
you go
sorry,
ahead?
the number one question, and everybody, you see it everywhere, that Club America's broke. Is Club America, are they broke?
I don't necessarily think that they are broke. I just do think that finances are being prioritized elsewhere, right? You have this big, huge loan that you have to pay off to Banorte. The interest rate, I'm sure, is not the most friendliest of interest rates either. Again, this was a loan that needed to be done in last minute. Kind of, it's not very much last minute. It was, I think, 2 years ago when it was kind of done, and then it was announced last year. But um, I do think that America is going to unfortunately face the repercussions of said loan, of said different business deals going in certain ways. It's not that America is broke. I think it's just right now Grupo Ollamani is trying to allocate their funds elsewhere, and unfortunately, Club America is not at the top of the priority list.
Great answer, great answer. But I wanted to follow up on that, and you seem to have like a very good view of where America and Televisa are, and where they used to be. And so comparing him to his father, which a lot of people would say is unfair, but I think it's a good baseline to base the success of the next generation who's led both Club America and Televisa for a time at least. Would you say that Emilio Ascaragajin is good Castilian? Is he at the level of his father, or is he a few tiers below, or a ghost of his father?
I, you know what? It's hard to say without actually being able to firsthand witness everything, right? I mean, if we were asking my dad this question, he probably would say that maybe he is just a tier below, or maybe even less. Who knows in what mood we find him when I ask him this question. But honestly, though, I think he's done well to kind of cement his own legacy. I think his father will always overshadow every other predecessor that comes, right? Whether it's Emilio, whether it's going to be his son, who takes over eventually, which is what we're all assuming will kind of be the pass of the baton, like, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years from now. Um, but I think he's done well enough to cement his own legacy. I don't think he's ruled the way that his father has. Some may say that's probably a good thing. Others may say it's a bad thing. How would his father have had managed all of the stuff that America has gone through, right? Not just with the sporting side of things with the club, but also the financial aspect of running a business in the modern day and age that we live in today, post COVID-19, right? Which I think that's huge, because the business world was never the same after that, especially when you're talking about a sporting side. And so I think Emilio, while he isn't his father, for better or worse, that may be, I do think that he stands in his own legacy and has done enough to kind of cement himself there. But I do think he is overshadowed by his father for sure.
So he's a worthy heir, is what I'm getting from this.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say so.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Because like we've kind of been painting like a disaster, or like a picture that is akin to disaster as far as Club America is concerned. But if you compare them to any other club, they're an above average team. They have good young signings, they have high player value, right? They have good scouting. They seem to be getting, like maybe not no name players, but players that I'm not familiar with, and making something out of them. And some of these players like Caceres have gone on to like be starters for big teams like Uruguay. They benched uh, Jose Maria of Atletico de Madrid, as well as Araujo from Barcelona. Right? It was the center back for Club America playing for Uruguay, and yeah, they didn't have a successful World Cup, but like players at Club America, like you know, they have some big time players, and even now, like they're coming off one of the most successful runs in modern times. The tricampeón. You said they were at 4 finals, which I think is an incredible feat. So I think like by any other, like if it was any other team that we were talking about, it would be what a success they are. But this is Club America, and they're just like that same allure, that magic from the past, and maybe it's the nostalgia in me. Um, I just don't see it. I don't see it, and I don't see any plan to get it again, or like any interest to get it again. They're going a completely different direction, and you're right. We won't know until a few years from now if it's a success or not. But isn't any year that you guys don't win a title a fracaso?
Absolutely. And it's the standard of the club. And I think that's why it seems a little bit overcasted, everything that we've just talked about. Like you mentioned, any other club, if we were talking about like Puebla doing what America has done, it would be historical in every sense. And people would talk about it for years to come about how that successful Puebla side was and yada, yada, yada. But when it comes to America, as the first time that America lost the final, it was, oh, are they done for now? And then they didn't make it past the quarters. And oh, is Andre Jardinez's tenure over? Is this great, epic team finally come to an end? And it was always painted in a negative light. But that's just the way it is with America. That's the way it's always been with America. And I think the people at the club should understand that it comes with the territory. And so I would assume that they're trying to get back on that horse. And we'll see what, things pan out. We might be sitting here 2 years from now talking about how America weathered the storm of this financial handicap and eventually ended up coming better on the other side of the table and, investing big time and walking away with a better facility, walking with a brand new stadium that's remodeled and, more money injected into the squad. And now we're seeing bigger names being brought in for commercial purposes as well. And so it's all going to depend on how well the people who are put in charge to do their job, and we'll see whether or not they're capable of living to the standard that is Club America.
Ivan, what I saw you tweet about this. What truth is it that is there to the rumor that supposedly Club America is trying to sell their famous training grounds in Cuapa? And if that's true, then what's the motivating factor?
Yeah, I do think that there is talks to want to eventually leave Coapa for bigger territory that they have. They own land over there in Santa Fe. Um, for those of you who aren't aware, and it's just an area that's closer to the Estadio Azteca. Um, and so, honestly, I think they're running out of room in Coapa. I mean, you started with just the men's team, and now you have the youth, and then also now the ladies, and all the lower divisions, and all these other extra teams that they're making. So I do think that they're running out of space eventually in Coapa, and I do think they want to modernize their facility. I do think that if you're looking at expanding Coapa, then you're probably talking about buying property in and around that area. That's not going to be cheap. Uh, are people even willing to sell? And so I do think that you have to look at that and say, well, it's possible. It's possible. Other reports have come out saying that this could be tentatively a 5-year plan for America to eventually move out of Coapa. With the way things are going financially, I would probably add another 3-4 years to that. But I do think eventually that we might end up seeing America leave from Coapa and eventually end up going and making a new facility over in Santa Fe.
Okay, and now let's talk about the field. So, the on the field product. So, after the clausura, news broke that Jardinet it was a mutual agreement that he was going to leave the club, and it was pretty surprising because Jardinet was the architect of one of the greatest modern, if not one of the greatest era in Club America with the Trincampeonato and Torneos Cortos, which is no small feat. Nobody has done it, and it surprised everyone. What do you? Plenty has been said, but in your opinion, what led to that mutual breakup? It's not you, it's not me, but let's just walk away for the moment.
Yeah, it felt very much as a to be continued departure. I think when you look at the last two tournaments that Jardine had, he wasn't really backed by the board, right? Again, you have to kind of dig under the hood and see exactly what's going on. Money's being shifted, money's being prioritized towards the stadium. Things have to get done in order to kind of host this big, huge tournament that is the World Cup. So obviously, you're not going to be able to get all these funds allocated. You're not going to get the players that you want. And I mean, people already have their opinion about Santiago Baños, and I'm sure he's not the best person to work with a tight budget and still get the players that the coach definitely wants. So I do think that there was a sense of frustration. You kind of felt it, not just amongst the players, but again the coaching staff as well. Jarinev looked at times during those seasons a bit frustrated, like his tactics kind of just went out the window and things just kind of weren't falling in his direction. But I do think he genuinely does love the club. I do think he genuinely enjoyed his time at America. They made such a historical, achievement that I do think that he left in good terms. And I think he saw the writing on the wall that he was not going to be able to continue to kind of squeeze the best out of this team. And so I think, did the smart thing. And when America kind of told him, hey, this is kind of going to be the budget, this is kind of going to be the way that we have to, I guess, navigate for this season or potentially even next season. And I think he did the smart move, and both parties mutually agreed to part ways. And I think it was unfortunate, but I do think it was for the best, because if Jardine was still here and the results weren't going well, and you can only imagine America ended up losing these first two games against the opponents that they had. um, I think his image would have been tainted even more, or his, I guess, love with the fans would have become a little bit more sour.
Yeah, it looks like some people were starting to turn on him, but why, you know, um, why burn him, right? And
Yeah.
and so, but my question is why hasn't he jumped to a new team? Do people not rate Liga MX, or do you think he's taking a break? Uh,
Well, he
what's up
did
with
end
him?
up going to coach in Saudi. I think
He did.
yeah, he's in Saudi right now. Although I think we all expected him to take a much more prolific role. Obviously there was that big flirting from Botafogo uh right after winning the bicampeonato, and
They
they
have
were
new
literally,
American owners, and
yeah, yeah.
they're not only are they historical, but they're on the rise. I think they were champion not too long ago.
Absolutely. Yeah, and they were willing to give him the keys to the palace and say, you are gonna have complete control. We have the financial backing to get you whatever player you deem is necessary for your squad. And he turned it down. He turned it down because he was loving his time at America. He was loving what he was doing. He felt that his time at America was nowhere near done, and he wanted to continue to achieve. And he did so, right? He brought a tricampeonato. Unfortunately, that international trophy or that international glory never really followed the domestic success, which I do think is something that he will want to come back and kind of vindicate himself for. But yeah, it's interesting that he didn't make that big jump. Obviously, there was talk about potentially being the Brazilian national coach at one point, and so we always thought maybe potentially if he left America, he'd be jumping either back to Brazil or back to maybe going to Spain, maybe even the Premier League. There was this kind of high ceiling for Janet. Not to say that there still isn't, but it is interesting that he wanted to go kind of the Saudi route.
Great answer, great answer. And I'd love to, start, rounding off this Club America talk with where do you think this current team will place in this Apertura, and who are the breakout stars that we should look out for in Club America?
Um, wow. You caught me at a time where I'm not really ambitious about how this team is playing, or kind of have high hopes of how this team is gonna potentially end. But I do get that we're very short into Almada's tenure, very short into this season, and anything is eventually possible, as we've seen in Liga MX. But I think if the so-called four reinforcements, which one already came in for America, do end up happening, uh, I think the highest we could finish is maybe fourth. But realistically, right now, I see us somewhere around sixth, maybe seventh.
So you guys are currently fifth in the league after tying one and winning one. So you narrowly beat Querétaro. Granted, one man down, but
Yeah.
it is Querétaro. You would think Club America is going to beat them. And then you had a dramatic 1-1 draw against Atlante over the weekend. against an old flame. Maybe La
Yeah,
Ley de X what was in effect, but Piojo Herrera led his side to get a 1-1 draw against his old love. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
what are your thoughts on these matches, the start of the season?
Um, yeah, that Querétaro game was frustrating to watch. Anybody who was watching that game, kind of probably shares in my frustration. I don't think anyone really had that good of a game. Thank goodness for Violante's finish, but it looked exactly like a Liga like a Jornada 1 matchup in Liga MX where both teams kind of look like they're just barely coming into preseason form. Fortunately enough, America walks away with the 3 points, and you kind of walk away from that game saying, okay, let's not read too much into that. The 3 points got made. Let's see how we do at home. Although technically we were the away team against Atlante, and I think America had a very very good 45 minutes in comparison to what we saw in Querétaro. But they just kind of looked lights out in the second half after the substitutions were being made, and so unfortunately, Atlantic capitalizes on America's defense not wanting to play as defense, and it was just frustrating to see how it kind of all unfolded. We never really presented ourselves another opportunity after we concede that goal, and it was just kind of unfortunate that you kind of can't even look at the bench and think someone here can potentially do something. And so it's looking a little grim right now at the moment. Obviously, we just announced the signing of the 20-year-old Colombian winger Oscar Perea, who I mean, we'll see. I can't sit here and say that I know so much or know a lot about him. But he's coming from France. He's had some couple decent spells in Europe, and we'll see how well he can adapt to the league and how well he can adapt to Almada's system. But the start of the season is looking, like I said, a little grim. But anything, I guess, and everything is possible. And I guess the only good news is that we're barely 2 weeks in.
Okay, Evan. One last one before we let you go.
Absolutely.
We've been pretty cordial, but let's make things spicy. Being that you're an Americanista and we're Chivas fans, and
Uh-huh.
me and Rifado would have this debate with a little hat trick, who's a Americanista on the younger side, I believe under 30. He said that most Americanistas his age, and including him, they didn't look at Chivas like their main rivals anymore. Like it wasn't really a super clásico because obviously Chivas hasn't won a lot of titles. And he said that they saw more of maybe Tigres or Cruz Azul being their title. Being that you're a little more seasoned Americanista, who do you feel is still Club América's still cage opponent?
Oh, 100% Chivas. 100% Chivas. And I could see why the argument's being made. And I never really liked it when they deemed America Tigres the new clásico of this modern era of Liga MX. I thought it was a bunch of hoopla. This is a rivalry that extends itself, over decades. There's a final, semifinals, brawls, just the passion and heart and everything that kind of goes into an actual clásico to build it up and call it a clásico. I think that is the true testament. I've always said it to anybody, even if they're not Liga MX people. I do put it up there with Barcelona, Real Madrid, with Manchester United, Liverpool. It's one of those matches that I think Boca River too. That I think if you watch it, maybe not necessarily in the most recent of years, but I do think it has its history. And if you go and we watch highlights of what these games were before, you kind of get a true testament of what this Clásico means for both sides. And so for me, yeah, 100% Chivas is still the reigning
So we still hate each
the
other.
reigning enemy. Yeah, there you go. We
We
still
still
hate
hate
each
each other.
other.
Okay. No,
100%.
but going to the serious side, I think a lot of this narrative has been driven by Televisa ever since Chivas left Televisa for Prime. As you could see it with Faitelson's tweets saying, "Oh, este es el verdadero clásico," because obviously Cruz Azul belongs to Televisa. But you
Yeah.
know what? I still think you put those two jerseys still mean something. and when you put them against each other, I think the rivalry still is it's still it still heavily weighs over a Cruz Azul America, over a Chivas Atlas, or you know they wanted for me the Tigres America thing was more like the Colts versus the Patriots, because Brady was hot, Manning was hot, but after they left, it wasn't really a thing. And now we're probably going to see the decline of Tigres. Pizarro just resigned, so it doesn't look like Tigres is going to have those years they used to have. So I think some of the it never really took off, but I think it's surely not going to be a thing. And like I told you, it's still I don't like Atlas, but when I see that yellow jersey, when I see those videos of the doggy celebration from
Cuauhtémoc?
Henry Martin, no, from Henry
Oh,
Martin,
from Henry?
yeah, from Henry. Yeah, I remember I went to go cover an America game in Carson, and the America fans were doing it on the pavement. I mean, it still irked me as a fan, but so
Yeah,
that's it for me. But I grew up in the '90s, so I saw that game where Chivas came back from 0-2 with Ben Acker on their bench, and then when they beat America 5-0, then in 2005, I'm pretty sure you saw that exciting 3-3. So
the
it's still,
33, yeah.
for me, it's still like you look at the calendar. I'm not looking for Atlas. I'm not looking for Cruz Azul. I'm looking for America.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Club América is one of the few teams that I hate watch. I hate watch Club
Oh yeah,
América,
yeah,
and I also hate watch the U.S. men's national team because I'm a
yeah,
big El Tri fan. So,
Yeah.
the two teams that I hate watch, Club América, USA. So that's a good testament to how I see the rivalry, and I think a lot of fans are like this. I think another good example is when the fans were complaining that the players were too cordial to one another
Yeah,
after
I
one of
remember
the
that.
Clásicos, and it just goes to show you that, like, no, it's not supposed to be like that, and it's the fans checking these dudes.
and
Hey man, remember, this is a rivalry, a real one.
honestly, and look at what is it 2000 what is it 2023 or 3 years ago, Chivas America for a friendly in October. They filled up the
Pasadena, I
Rose
was
Bowl.
there.
I,
Yeah, I
I
was
was
there
there. It
covering the
was
game
wow.
as press.
Yeah, yeah. It was like wow. It's like that's a testament. I don't think an America Cruz Azul does that.
Was it how
No,
was that game, Ivan?
honestly, it was one of the
America
more
won.
memorable one. They
America
did
won.
win. They won that game. It was one of the best goals I've
Yeah,
seen live, which was a Julian Quiñones golazo. He
yeah,
wasn't. He had had his papers to go into the Mexican national team, so he was
yeah,
forced to go play with with America during the
yeah,
international break. But
yeah,
yeah, no, I mean, you saw from the press box the sea of yellow, the sea of red
yeah,
mixed in there. It was phenomenal. It
yeah,
was great, and it was funny because I think I want to say that the MLS was kind of hyping itself up with the LA Galaxy and LAFC had
yeah.
just
The
El
Tráfico
played
Tráfico.
there.
yeah, just
Yeah,
play there.
Tráfico had just been played there, and they were like all record number like 70,000
Yeah,
something,
yeah, yeah. It was
and then like
July
a
4th
couple.
game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and then like a couple months later, Liga MX goes and plays a friendly between their two biggest clubs, just kind of with their real Clásico, and it sells out to even
and they
bigger
didn't even
numbers.
they didn't even Club America, and I don't know if Chivas had any seleccionados, but there were no seleccionados because it was a fecha FIFA, and it was
Exactly.
still 80,000 and 90,000. I don't know. That's a big
Yeah, it
stadium.
was it was close to 90, I
Yeah,
think. So
yeah. The
it was
Tucanes Tijuana
yeah,
played at
the
halftime.
classic
It was
one.
a it was a it
Yeah,
was a party. It was a party.
That stadium comes
absolute
alive.
party.
The Mexican
Yeah,
community really
yeah,
brings that stadium to life, dude. I don't
yeah.
think I don't think anyone else makes it pop like the Mexican community
Oh, you know
does.
what,
No,
Ivan?
no.
One last one, since you're an Americanista and you know this guy very well. How do we rate Memo Ochoa? He just announced his retirement. Is when it comes to Mexican goalies, is he a goal? Club America wise, is he up there with Celada? Did he surpass Celada? Let us know. How do you define his career?
Oh wow, this is like the perfect segment to end it off here with, because he's my idol. I grew up watching him, and he's the reason why I played goalkeeper whenever I did play rec and everything. So to me, I mean, this is very much a very biased take, and then some people will agree, some people might say I'm crazy, but to me, he is by far the greatest goalkeeper in Mexican history, and I will stand and I will die on the hill to say that he is the best Club America goalkeeper in history as well. I know that some other people will, have their quirks or their different says, especially when it comes to America, right? How can you say that when you have Salada there? The man won the World Cup. I mean, he was the third choice goalkeeper for that tournament, but it's not to say that I'm not grateful for what Salada did, right? Especially in that epic final against you guys, and that penalty that he saved after obviously having to make up for his own mistake and giving away that penalty. But um, to me, I think Ochoa just is an embodiment of what it means to be an Americanista. He loves the club. In his highest moments in Europe, when he finally got that oh so coveted passport, and America needed a goalkeeper because Marchesín was leaving them hanging dry to go explore his own ventures in Europe. He didn't hesitate. America made the call, and he came back home. And there was talk of Napoli looking into him, Porto looking into him, and so with interest of clubs that he knew he would potentially be able to play Champions League with, which is one of his dreams as well that he had. He chose America, and I think that should speak volumes, And then I know his second stint didn't go as well as everyone expected him to, and maybe the end, his image was a little bit tainted with the fans. But I do think that time will tell the better story of Guillermo Ochoa, and I do think that he will reign very high in the eyes of Mexican fans of El Tri. But I do think that he will also rank very, very high with Club America, because I don't think there will ever be another academy goalkeeper to come out of the ranks, and not just with his talent, but I think his heart as well for this club.
Love for Fernando Tapia. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, he's if he can get out of the bench and get some minutes, maybe, maybe.
But yeah, with that, I want to thank you, Ivan, from the Eagle Eye podcast. Can you once again give our fans just a handle, where to reach you? Where's your newest stuff coming out of?
Yeah. You guys can follow me at like I mentioned, at Ivan Pineda 83. I'm also kind of soft launching a little bit something that I have on the side called Aguila Zone. If you guys want to go follow it, it's at Aguila Zone Pod. I'm just kind of soft launching it, just kind of seeing where it goes, maybe building some traction. And maybe we'll see if things go well this season. Maybe we jump on back on the mic and do something there. But for now, I'm just kind of doing my own thing on the side, and kind of tweeting and writing articles as I can here and there for the America people.
And Ivan, the door is always open for you right here at the Mexican Football Podcast. Hopefully, we'll have you a couple more times during the season, because I told you we need that Club America counterbalance.
Absolutely, no, yeah. Hey, count me guys in. If you guys want to do something for when the Clásico starts rallying up,
there we go.
Lock me in.
You're locked in. You're locked in right now. Let me put you in. There we go.
All right,
Thank
everyone.
you,
gentlemen.
All right,
thank you
so
so much.
Ivan.
Best of luck with this podcast, and thank
you, Evan. Thanks.
And we're back. I want to go ahead and thank our guest. Huge thanks to Ivan of the Eagle Eye podcast. Thank you for joining us. Great insight from this guy in regards to Club América, and hopefully we can get him back soon, maybe after the Super Clásico between Club América and Chivas. But Albert, mi sabio, let's go ahead and switch gears and get into Jornada 2 of Liga MX. I want to do a quick rundown of Jornada 2. So we start off with Pachuca and a surprising loss 1-2 to Querétaro. Necaxa beats Monterrey 2-1 against, Almeida. Tigres 2-2 draw to San Luis. Santos 0-1 loss to Atlas. Chivas narrowly beat Juarez late in dramatic fashion. Atlante 1-1 draw against Club América. Cholos 1-0 win over León. Toluca 1-2 loss to Pumas. Very surprising upset there. Cruz Azul 2-1 victory over Puebla. So Misabio, what are your biggest takeaways on Jornada 2?
So obviously the Toluca Pumas game was on Tuesday, because Toluca played the Campeón de Campeones against Cruz Azul, which they lost as well. So not a pretty good week for Mohamed and company, but good win for Pumas. And then moving on, for me the biggest highlight is Chivas getting the win. They got out of the way after not winning in the jornada, after losing against Toluca in the jornada uno. They were able to rebound. It wasn't as bountiful as I thought it was going to be, but it's a 1-0. In the minute 96 where Alvarado came up with a goal. Alvarado, who was one of Mexico's best men in the World Cup, he's again proving he's again showing why he's again showing the good moment he's in with Chivas. So it's the 3 points. Hey, I'll take them.
Yeah, Piojo Alvarado's got me putting pistachios in mi salsa verde. Shout out to El Piojo. He's in wonderful form coming off the World Cup, and he's continuing with that run of form into this apertura. And I'm excited for him. That play was very dramatic. So like it was Efrain who lobbed the ball to I believe Marin, who headed it towards Alvarado, who put the ball away and got that dramatic late victory for Chivas. I know it's early in the tournament, but we did really need this win. Juarez, it's not easy. It's not easy. They've been on the up, and so I think with the new players being integrated with some of the U20 players in the CONCACAF tournament
But
right
you know
now,
what? Chivas was like you pointed, like you just mentioned the under 20 tournament. Chivas was missing a couple of young guys.
They were missing Samir Indra, they were missing El Negrito Sandoval, they were missing Camberos, and I believe 8 total players were sent to the tournament from Chivas Academy. So it goes to show you, El Rebaño is producing talent para hasta hacer un caldo. And, they were missing those guys. And, what else happened? Some of the players from the World Cup maybe aren't as integrated into the squad as we would want. Those new signings aren't as integrated. And so, things need to start clicking. But so often, teams in Liga MX kind of always start the tournament half baked, and I
Oh
think that
yeah,
might play into it.
well, look, usually when it comes to the apertura, it starts. Usually it starts a month before everybody else starts. The rest of the world, when everybody's still in preseason form. So it's like I would say around jornada 5, it's gonna start cooking.
I agree. I agree. I think it's going to start cooking as well, and hopefully Chivas gets it together. But let's go ahead and start talking about some other takeaways. What else stood out to you, Misavio?
You know what? Tigres, they let go a 2-1 lead against San Luis in the minute 89. And then today, July 26th, it was announced that Guido Pizarro was turned his letter of resignation, and his reign with Tigres is over. And you know what? It's they say that the team set it up, that it wasn't happy, something was wrong there. Me and you had talked about it, and it seems like what goes around comes around, because Pizarro Pizarro's a legendary figure in the club, and they said that he was one of the guys that got Coca out of there as well. So
He
it's
led the
just,
Ides of March against Coca
yeah. So it's
and usurped the throne from him, becoming
yeah,
the
yeah,
technical, chasing him out of town. And you're right. Maybe what starts off bad is doomed to
yeah, yeah.
end off
But
bad,
you know
and
what?
that's. Mhm.
The solution just it lets me to think that Tigres' days as being a top player. I mean, backtracking a little bit, talking about one of the reasons Pizarro wasn't happy is because Tigres wasn't getting those reinforcements, those splashy signings that they could make. They weren't getting them, and they let go of Correa. They sold them to River, so they let go of a big piece, and they were getting big pieces back. So that combined with, I think, Rafa Puente, Mister, talks beautifully, but but really just hasn't done anything. I think Rafa Puente is leaving the TUDN studios, and he's going to be the next Tigres coach. And I think just that's a huge downgrade. And I don't
There's a
see
few names
Tigres.
being thrown around. I've also heard Juan Carlos Osorio. So we're not sure who's going to take over. Uh, they got a good squad. Guignac just left the club. He finally retired. And you have young players like 5'1" Diego Chicha Sanchez, who scored over the weekend. You have Bruneta, who I believe is the guy at the heart of the controversy between Pizarro and his abrupt departure from the club. It was rumored that Bruneta and Pizarro did not see eye to eye, and that's unfortunate. The club chose Bruneta over Pizarro, is what some of the rumors are saying, but I'm not 100% convinced. I'm still waiting for more concrete answers to what's going to happen, and that fallout, the fallout and those details might not come to light for many years, but the rumors state that Bruneta's at the heart of this, and he's a quality player. He's a quality player. I'd hate to see him go. Angel Correa is, I believe, on his way to River Plate right now. So we need
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
And like I don't think the season's a wash, but I'm curious to see how they salvage this awful start for them.
No, they might not even make the Liga television. I'll say it right now. It just doesn't bode well. But we'll see.
I don't
We'll
know.
see.
I don't think so. We'll see.
We'll
We'll
see.
see. So what else caught your eye during Jornada
Well,
2?
let's talk about the 1-1 tie between Atlanta and America, and not so much. We already had enough America talk today, but let's talk about Atlante. So what's the name? America was up, and Atlante tied it up in the minute 65, if I minute, the 65 minute, and obviously Mr. Piojo Herrera, who had the tension on him going into this match because of his Americanista pass. He celebrated like it was the World Cup, like that meme when they won the
Well,
campeonato with
he
America.
needed
He
this win. He
celebrated big.
needed this
Yeah,
win.
oh yeah, he needed after the yeah
He's been in the negative for a while,
yeah.
so
It was
hopefully
huge.
he
It was
hopefully he
huge. It
can
was
turn
in
his
an
career around.
Azteca. It was in an Azteca. It was against America. They had all the reflectors on him, and he put it on. But let's talk about the guy that scored the tying goal, Eugenio Pisuto, who is who at the turn of the last decade, he seemed as Mexico's next important player, his offensive player. He had his dad's Italian, he had he has a European passport. So a jump to Europe, if he showed quality, a jump to Europe would have been out of the question, and he did. But he's been the injury bug has really bit him. Has really bitten him in his young career, and I ironically call him a young guy. The guy's 24, but he's already scored 2 goals this season, one in each match. And I don't know. Mexico needs more talented players, and I don't want to buy the hype, but it's always good to see where there's potential. For me,
So so
wait
he
and
was a
see, but
wonder
I'm
kid for
excited.
he was a wonder kid that many people were excited for. But in the last 5 years, from 2020 to 2025, he only has 4 league appearances. So this is someone who's been riddled with injuries, and it's unfortunately, taken away his young, promising years as a footballer. But he seems to be coming back with a vengeance, and that goes to show you that some of these injuries, just because you're deemed fit to play, it could be, months to years before you finally hit that stride again. You find that form that gives the best version of yourself on the field. And I think we're seeing that to Pisuto, but I just want to warn the listeners that sometimes when these players they come back, it takes a while. It takes a long time, and some don't even come back at all. They're forever changed. But luckily, Pisuto is young enough to recover from this, and let's hope that he's able to continue this run of form and maybe even foster a call up for the selección, because he has a very storied career. He started off the Pachuca youth system, goes to the Lille youth system, then he goes back to Pachuca, plays for their senior side one time. I think he re-injures himself, and then he eventually gets loaned back to the Lille to their main squad. Makes no appearances for them for 2 years, and then he goes to Braga B for one season, makes one appearance, and then Tigres buys him, repatriates him to Mexico, and he only makes 2 appearances. He's loaned out to Atlante, where he's got 10 matches under his belt and 2 goals, which I think is great for him. So I'm looking forward to seeing more, and hopefully he can become the player that we all expected and wished that he was 5 years ago.
Okay, so Oh, sorry to cut you off. So
No, you're fine.
moving on, moving on. Before we move on, and I forget, let's continue with the Lira watch. So Cruz Azul played a week ago because obviously they played the Campeón de Campeones, which they beat Toluca. So they beat Puebla last week 2-1. But Lira, it's still everybody thought that if any, obviously Mora, everybody knew Mora was eventually going to move to Europe, but his age is not a problem, but it's a thing. But with Lira, everybody thought he's 26. If he was Mexico's best player, I think along with Piojo, but he showed out.
Arguably.
Yeah, he showed out.
Mhm.
So they're saying, oh, if it's now or never. But there's I see rumors that Cruz Azul doesn't want to sell him for anything below 3 million, and that there's rumors that there was no clubs interested with him, and that today I saw that his possible destination is El Monaco, which was Rafa Marquez's first European home. But whatever it is, I hope I think he's a middle of the table club guy for either in Spain or in Germany. EPL,
I don't
I
think
don't
he's
see
gonna
him.
go.
So
I
you
don't
don't
think he's
think he's
gonna go.
leaving? You don't think
I
he's
don't think
leaving?
I don't think he's leaving, man, because Monterrey Tigres can pay 10, 15 million for him.
So Cruz
You know,
Azul, and then Cruz Azul, they want to build a stadium, so I could see it.
we talk about some of these guys, and we have all these
But I hope he leaves, man.
hopes.
I hope he leaves. But
I'm reminded of this quote by Rafa Ramos. He said, "The Mexican between surrealism, magical realism, and reality sometimes lives in scenarios of hallucination."
wow.
And I bring that up right
So
now
am I
because
hallucinating? Am I
I,
hallucinating?
I
Am
think the
I? Am I?
media
Did I
I
take
think the
something?
media is getting carried away a little bit with
Oh
some of these
wow.
rumors. For instance, like they were talking about Israel Reyes going to Roma
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
Club
I
from
know
Club
the guy.
America,
Yeah,
and they're talking about $5 million,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm like, Monterrey would pay that in a heartbeat, and here Roma is haggling, saying that's too much. Monterrey, Tigres, they'll pay 10, 15 for him, easy. And so why should these clubs sell for peanuts? I just don't agree with it. I don't think it's realistic.
You know
So
what? I think it's the same logic that is used with when people when people defend these players like Bella or Chucky going to the MLS. Like, yeah, you want them to be in Europe because you're thinking about the selection for yourself, but you're not thinking about these players. They're gonna make good money, so it's a good opportunity. And for the clubs, it's like like you said, why sell them to Roma for 3 million when
so
Monterrey or Tigres? Yeah.
the window of a player's lifespan is incredibly small. We're talking 10 to 15 years if you're lucky. A lot of players don't make it that long. But, let's say 10, 15 years, you have to make the most amount of money during that time because you're not, when you're a star and you go back to work, like I don't think a lot of people can make that transition. So you have to accumulate the most wealth that you can in the small period of time because, these people are going to live 80 years, right? 15 of those years are going to be
And
in
you
the
know what?
spotlight.
Lira's already 26, so he's
Yeah.
not. So it's not like he's gonna earn those big. Also, they're not gonna sell him for much, and he's not gonna earn those big bucks in Europe.
This
Eh,
next contract for Lira might be his biggest, and so why should it be for some European team that doesn't rate him?
Peralta didn't
Um,
want to do that. Peralta, 27, he said, "No, I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go sacrifice at 27. I'm not gonna go sacrifice my salary."
Vega said something along those lines with Wolves asking for a loan, and he's like, it's go out of my comfort zone to make less in a league that they don't even care about me, a club that doesn't really care about me. Like here, I'm a star, comfortable. So it's what's that saying? El mexicano doesn't conquer the world porque no le da la gana, something like that.
Era como no dominamos el mundo porque no queremos or some stuff like that.
That's right, man. Why would we be doing that when we can be having fiestas, dancing cumbia songs and eating pozole, you know? So I think that plays into it, and I think people are getting carried away with some of this. I don't think Lira goes. We'll see. Maybe I have egg on my face, man, because he does want the move to happen, but we'll see. But what else caught your mind in regards to this jornada?
Not so much the jornada, but let's talk about they're still playing the MLS All Star between MLS and Liga MX, and Chivas, with the exception of Luis Rey and Castañeda, they pulled all their players. The Cholos pulled their players, and I think it's first of all, I don't know why they're still doing it. I understand they needed the synergy, and it was always cool to say, oh, well, Liga MX versus MLS, and they needed the synergy for the World Cup, but the game has been a drag for maybe the first two editions were cool, but it's just been a drag. It's like, well, like why? And to be honest, like Liga MX, their player, most of the squad is made out of the foreign players. They're good, but it's not like the MLS named players. They don't have they don't have a Messi. They don't have like that guys that draw attention. So
It doesn't even matter, man.
yeah,
It's a
and
trofeo de
it's
chocolato.
no, but why?
It's a
Why
waste
even
of time.
play it? Yeah, why even
Well,
play it?
you know, they're doing it for money, you know, and I don't even think they're making that much money. I think it's a contractual agreement that
Look,
MLS is obsessed with. They're always trying
yeah.
to pitch their wagon next to ours,
Yeah.
and this is part of that.
Look, here's the list of the guys that are going. Keylor Navas, which that guy, you know, when I said that Liga MX doesn't have nameplate, man, okay, they have Keylor Navas, but he's not going. Nael Guzman, he's not going. Brian Guti from Chivas not going. Richie from Chivas not going. Nicolas Castro Toluca not going. The other, no, I mean Brian Gonzalez, and then Brian Gutierrez also from Chivas are not going. Mora, who everybody wanted to see, is not going. Brian Rodriguez, the Uruguayan player from America, is not going. Franco Romo Toluca is not going. Obviously, Sandoval is not going because he's in the under 20 CONCACAF Cup, and then Normica's not going. So that's a lot of dropouts for this match, which I told you, as it is, it's already a calendar filled with so many matches. They just did the Campeón de Campeones, which I think it's another. I think the Campeón de Campeones, like when it pit, the original Campeón de Campeones pitted the
Another
champion,
trofeo de chocolato.
and you know what?
It don't matter, bro.
Because of that trofeo, Cruz Azul went up 2 titles on Chivas, and the Chemos are talking. But that's another story. But yeah, it's like so. The original
It don't matter. It don't matter.
Original Campeón de Campeones. It was because it was the Torneo de Liga when they played the long format, when they did the long format, and the Campeón de Copa, which is the knockout round, like they do in Europe. You know, they do the Copa like that. So that was the original. But obviously now they want to cash grab everything, so they do this, which I think it makes no sense because the champion from the Apertura is like 6-7 months removed from their reign. It's not always the case when you have bicampeón. It's not the case because when you have bicampeón,
Yeah, they're never as good. One of the teams is never as good.
Most of
Sometimes
the time
both.
it's like, yeah. Although this,
and most of the teams are completely different.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So,
I mean, in this case,
the teams aren't the same.
Toluca was still a CONCACAF champion, so it was a decent match. But in most cases, it's I don't know. It's just another. Hey, let's make some money. Oh, and then now, Cruz Azul is gonna fight. Is gonna play Inter de Miami in the Campeones Cup. I don't know, another like. I mean, it was cool.
That
but
one
I
is
think
a little bit more interesting. That one's a little because they're both gonna try for that one. They're both gonna try. Like this one, I don't know. But anyways, let's go ahead and segue to the U20 World Cup. Mexico just coming off their second victory off of Costa Rica, who they beat. How much did they beat them by? They beat them 2-0. I think one goal from Santi El Negrito Sandoval, and then one from Camberos.
How are we feeling? How are we feeling about our young Chivas? How are we feeling about them?
I like them balling out, but let's let we can only beat who's in front of us, but in front of us is weaker opposition. We have the Ticos, we have Guatemala, who we face next, and then Antigua and Barbados, who we already beat. But the young players are gelling. They're playing. They're having experience. They're gaining form, right? So I can't hate on that. I want them back. I want Indra. I want Camberos. I want Santi Sandoval most of all, who's so good. I think he could honestly break into our squad as the first sub off the bench, along with Guti, or even a starter if the drought with Hormiga continues. So I definitely am looking forward to the repatriation of this.
But
you know
what? Cambreros is clear. The guy needs to. for the sake of. But again, like I told you, we're thinking about selfishly. We're thinking about selección. But this guy, he needs to leave Chivas. Milito doesn't know how to use him, or I don't know what's the deal with this. He's not that old. He's 19, late 20s. So but he's been on the radar for a long time. But he hasn't broken through. He should have been a guy that should have been on the World Cup squad. But because he doesn't have a place at Chivas, I think both sides need to come to an agreement, and he needs to go. He needs to go now. If not, they're gonna waste him.
We'll see. It looks like he might go. Obviously, Milito doesn't rate him too much. He looks for him as an answer late on in a game. But we don't really play with wingers at Chivas right now. We play with false wingers like Piojo Alvarado, who's more of a center attacking midfielder who starts off wide and drifts towards the
You
center.
can play the middle, yeah.
Yeah, and so we don't quite play with like out and out wingers like Camberos, who can also drift inside, but less so. He's more of a width player,
He needs
so
space. Yeah.
he needs space, exactly. He operates best with that, and so I would like to see him go. But hopefully we should win this whole tournament. It looks like we started off the right way with 2 victories. The Jovenazos are gelling, but the opposition is kind of weak. And with that, let's go ahead and segue to the next and last section. Why don't you go ahead and introduce it?
Hey, you know what? Like I was saying, this is the most important part of the show because it shines a light on Mexico's on Mexico's next star players. Nobody else has the pulse on Mexico's youth like Rifado. So this is the Jovenazo section. Talk to him, Rifado.
Thank you, Misabio. So this week we had 49 U23 players out of the 378 players available, or 12%. And that is only 2 more than last week, which was also at 12%. So we've stayed the same. But what we need to take into context is that all the teams had to release players for this U20 CONCACAF Gold Cup. And so that's why we're not seeing so many jovenazos. But there are some, in spite of that, there's some people that are making a name for themselves. We had like Violante with an assist over the weekend in the 1-1 draw. We had Artiaga with a goal against Pumas, La Ley del Ex. Cordova, who's not a jovenazo, also scored against his former club, Toluca. And then who else do we have? We have, let's see, I've already mentioned Cotorro, Guti, Hormiga, great players all. Let's see, who else do we have? At Tigres, I already mentioned Diego Sanchez had 1 goal in the 2-2 draw against San Luis. And then Pachuca.
Can I talk about Chicha?
Yeah, he's 5'1", bro. And
Yeah,
people
that's
are
what
tripping
everybody's
out.
saying. Yeah, it's like like literally, my friend told me like, everybody was talking about how Mexico needs top players, and here comes this 5'1" guy. So I don't know.
You know, he,
What do we expect? Is he a guy that we should expect something from on the next stage, or what should we do?
so in the stretch of like 20 to 30, no, like 10 to 20 yards, he's great to operate with because he's got this low center of gravity and he's pretty quick. He obviously got that goal. He's not afraid to defend. Oftentimes you'll see him as a defender subbed on late when they need a victory, and he will defend. But I saw this guy live, man. I think like a year and a half ago when they played Cholos, and I was like, "What the fuck? What's this kid doing on the field?" Was my first initial thought, because I saw him, man, and this was like close to 2 years ago. So I think he's 22 now or 21. How old is he? No, I don't know how old he's. I think he's 21. But I swear to you, I was reminded of when my mother calls a boy's body cuerpo de uva. I even saw like a little, like he still looked like a little kid, bro, when I saw him.
He
And so
just
I
turned
was
21 in April, so
okay, yeah. So
he's still
yeah,
jovenazo.
he's still a jovenazo, man. But I was telling you, when I saw him, I was taken aback. I was like, my first thought was like, what's this kid doing here? And then I see that he's got a jersey. He had like the training, the sub vest on, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy's an actual player, and he debuted, I think, that game. And he's an interesting prospect. I think if he wants to really be successful, though, he's got to leave Tigres, because that's where young players go to die. And so, especially right now
Does
with
he
this,
need the Messi hormone treatment?
I think it might be a little late for him. I think Messi started that at 13 years old. You have to do it like while before you hit puberty or while you're hitting puberty. I'm not a doctor, but I do hear that. But yeah, he's an interesting guy. You know, who interested me is who we talked about last week which is the Querétaro 16-year-old Mono Martinez. You know, he's not the youngest ever player. You know, that's still Gil Moran debuting at 15 years old, but the 16-year-old is making waves for Los Gallos of Querétaro, and he's 16 years old, man. What do you think about him?
He came out of Galaxy's Academy. Uh,
Mhm.
he's not he's not Heel, but I think he's close to him. He's a guy that he's a guy that makes things happen. And obviously I think the MLS Academy, they're a little more physical than what you can find in Mexico. The kids are a little stronger. They're a little a little taller. So I think he has that on the heel. I don't think he would get pushed around as easily as Heel does in occasions. But Heel is not a guy that goes body to body anyways. But we saw it in the World Cup. When it comes to that, he's still a boy. So I think he has that advantage of him just because of where he comes from. So like I said, the more of these guys that Mexico has, the better possibility they have for better showings at in international stage, because these guys, they're so talented. They eventually they go to Europe and they play big moments with big teams. So hopefully it's a guy I certainly have my eye on.
Yeah, he's great. And then there was this striker who I believe started at Monterrey. I think he's on loan at Querétaro. His name is Avila, and he had 2 goals in this game. This 2-1 victory over Pachuca, which is a surprising victory. So he's an interesting guy. He got 2 goals. I believe he's 21 as well. And so watch out for this guy. And yeah, that'll do for my Jovenazos rundown. 12%, not a bad number. It's going to jump up as soon as this CONCACAF U20 Gold Cup is over. But with that, is there anything else that you want to touch on before we wrap this episode up, Albert?
No, not really. I think it's been a jam-packed episode, especially with we had the state of Club America with Ivan who joined us. It was great. Hopefully, we can have him around for a Clásico. And like I said again, we have Leagues Cup. We have Leagues Cup coming up again. We have these synergy games between Mexico and the United States, which I think, I don't know. We'll see with the Leagues Cup. We'll see how much they draw. But as far as the MLS All Star, like, I think MLS should go back to playing the big European teams that were playing, because I like I told you, I don't see no outside of the Liga MX name. I see no value in the game. Mexico doesn't have these type of game names that MLS does.
Yeah, yeah. In this congested season,
Yeah, yeah.
in modern times, they need a meaningless game
Yeah,
like this,
yeah. It's like, why? I
like
think
someone
Chivas
needs a
was
hole in
right.
the head. It's
Chivas
just
was right
they
and
don't
to
need it.
pull it. Chivas was right to pull its main players. They were right, because they have it in what, a week and a half. They have Leagues
You
Cup.
have to
So
you have to
yeah,
draw the line in the sand
yeah, yeah.
somewhere. You got to do it sometime, somewhere.
That's
Why not now?
I mean, when's the last time you cared about it? I thought the first
I,
one was cool,
I
but then
never
after
cared about
that,
it.
it was like,
You
and
know,
then
you
there
know,
were.
you know what's crazy is the skill games, dude. Oh my god, I think Chicharito flopping at that thing. It's just, I don't know. Like they try to mimic like the NBA and the Super Bowl and NFL so much, but soccer is his own thing. Like, stop trying to Americanize it and just embrace it. You know, like that sort of you're gonna imprint it once you've embraced it. Then that'll cultivate, as opposed to like this AstroTurf thing that MLS tries to do by making it like the Super Bowl or the NBA, like I just said.
I mean, Rifado, as a fan, let's say you're a Liga MX fan in Charlotte, and you want to go support Liga MX, but are you interested in seeing Carlos Acevedo, Alexi Dominguez, Jesus Garza, Carlos Moreno, Rondon, Elias Montel? Are you interested in paying a ticket to see those guys against the MLS guys?
No, honestly, no. I mean, like as a casual, absolutely not. Like for me, I hear Montiel, I hear Echeverria. I'm like, okay, these are jovenazos that I'm interested in, but that's because I'm in an incredibly niche position. The general population, your average fan, they're not gonna give two damns about this, man. And
But
and that's the truth.
I know the third one they had Gignac, had a couple good players on the side, but then it was just, people were just taking seriously, Liga MX lost, and they were saying, "Oh, it just proves again how the United States is stomping on Mexico." When Liga MX had like 10 foreign guys on the squad, I think it's run its course. I think it was a cool idea. Maybe definitely the first one and 21, the 22. Then by 23, it had already worn its welcome, but it's still going, and I'm glad, as a Chivas fan. I'm glad Chivas pulled all its main guys.
MLS
It's not
execs,
worth
if
it.
you're listening,
It's not worth it.
stop with the mamadas.
Yeah, go back to playing Real Madrid or something like that. Put your stars against top guys. No,
Yeah.
yeah.
And with that, let's go ahead and sign off. This is El Rifado with the
El
Mexican
Sabio.
Football Pod. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube.
Yeah.
Go ahead, look us up. This is episode 5. It's been a great ride.
Yeah.
We're just getting started. Me, Albert, take us home.
Yeah, and you can find me, Albert Rifado, at one Albert Perez on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, and you could find me on TikTok. You could see my Brian Gutierrez interviews on TikTok, just El Sabio Sports. And again, thank you for tuning in this week. We're really looking forward to taking this podcast and doing something great with it. And especially, we got a guy like Rifado, who is the guy's just he's on top of his game, man. And I've been around the block for a while. I've been around, and I've been around the block for. I've been around the block for a while. Could I get the applause too? There we go.
Of course.
Hey, we're serious, but we could have fun here. All right.
Of course. And with that, let's go ahead and introduce the music,
all right,
our soundtrack music. And thank you, everyone. Appreciate you all.